6 o'clock. And a call to order the meeting of the Brawley City Council and successor agency to Brawley Community Redevelopment Agency. This will be our regular meeting agenda for Tuesday, February 2nd, 2021 at 6 p.m. here in City Council chambers. Alma, will you give us a roll call?
Mayor Hamby.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Couchman.
Here, present.
Councilmember Nava.
Here.
Councilmember Castro, absent, and Councilmember Ward.
Here.
Councilmember Castro sends his regrets. He had a family health issue that he had to deal with this evening. All right. I'm pleased to have our new police chief in the house tonight. I'd like to ask him to offer our invocation tonight, since it's been a long time since we've had one. Yeah. This microphone, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I appreciate the honor. Let us pray. Lord, we come before your presence tonight asking that you would take control of this meeting, God. We are here to resolve the issues of our community. Allow us to do so with wisdom and humility. Give our city council and all those involved in these decisions the right attitude to make the right decisions in the best interest of our community, of our citizens. God, we ask that your Holy Spirit will be with us throughout this meeting. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. And Mayor Pro Tem Couchman, would you lead us in the pledge?
Sure. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief Duran. All right, I'm looking for an approval of the agenda.
I make a motion to approve the agenda as written.
I second it.
All right, moved in second.
I is George, I'm sorry, because I know we're wearing masks.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just for the record, yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? All right. Item 2, public appearances and comments, not to exceed 4 minutes. This is the time for the public to address the council on any item not appearing on the agenda that's within the subject matter jurisdiction of the City Council. Anyone here to make a comment? Alma, were there any comments submitted? Okay.
Hello, everybody, council members. My name is Ceci Sanchez. I'm 18 years old, daughter of Mark Sanchez, employee at Flash Dogs. I just want to let you know that I'm here representing Flash Dogs, our business, small business, and I'm available for any questions, concerns you may have. I will be here in chambers to answer those questions. Thank you all.
Thank you. Okay, item 2D. It's the proclamation declaring February 7th to 14th, 2021, National Marriage Week in the city of Brawley. Backup is in page 5, and I will read this proclamation into the record. Proclamation declaring the week of February 7th to 14th, 2021 as National Marriage Week. Whereas marriage binds couples together in a network of affection, mutual aid, and mutual obligation, commits parents to their children, connects children to a wider network of welcoming kin, and provides ongoing support for the growth of healthy children and a healthy family. And whereas mounting scientific evidence confirms that the best environment for children to flourish is in being raised by parents in healthy marriages, and these children demonstrate less behavioral problems in school, are less likely to be a victim of physical or sexual abuse, less likely to abuse drugs and alcohol, less likely to commit delinquent behaviors, and are less likely to be raised in poverty. And whereas healthy marriages protect adults as well as children, mothers as well as fathers, and research indicates that women in healthy relationships experience more physical and emotional health, greater wealth, are less likely to be victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, or other violent crimes, less likely to attempt or commit suicide, have decreased risk of drugs or alcohol use, and more likely to have better relationships with their children. And whereas research also indicates that men in healthy marriages live longer, are physically and emotionally healthier and wealthier, have increased stability of employment, higher wages, decreased risk of drug and alcohol abuse, have better relationships with their children, and are less likely to attempt or commit suicide. And whereas the city of Brawley acknowledges the importance of lasting, healthy marriages for the well-being of children and the future of our community, physically, emotionally healthy and educated citizens experience decreased domestic violence rates, crime statistics, teenage pregnancy rates, and juvenile delinquency, higher rates of home ownership, higher property values, and overall decreased need of social services. And whereas recent advances in research have helped to identify the behaviors and skills necessary for a healthy relationship, furthermore, we now have proven methods for teaching these skills and behaviors. Now, therefore, be it resolved, I, Luke Hamby, Mayor of the City of Brawley, do hereby proclaim the week of February 7th through 14th, 2021 as National Marriage Week. In witness hereof, I have hereunto set my hand, caused the seal of the City of Brawley to be fixed on this second day of February, 2021. Okay. And that is a subject that's near and dear to my heart, so I'm grateful to have that on the agenda tonight. And this is also a reminder for you guys out there watching that, you know, February 14th is around the corner. So we've got
Thanks for the reminder, Luke.
we got local florists and, you know, card shops and that kind of stuff. So do the right thing. Moving on to item 2E, this will be a presentation by Brawley Library Board of Trustees in recognition of Marjo Mello, our former library director. We have Judy Grant and Liz Lorenzen.
Good evening. I need to go tell Phil how fortunate he is after all the things you read. How good being married, how good
Right?
marriage
That's
is
right.
for men.
That's right.
Just in case he's forgotten.
That's right.
In the microphone, please.
Yeah, yeah,
Just
right.
kidding.
Yeah.
All right.
For Coach Bill.
We're here this evening from the Board of Trustees for the library to recognize our dear Marjo for all that she has done over the past 30-something years for the city, and in particular for what she has done for the library. And we had a plaque made. You need to see this. We had a.
I know we can't.
I know,
have it
here,
like
we'll
I
do it,
said.
there we go. We had a plaque made that will, at some appropriate time, be placed in the library. And the plaque reads, "Thank you, Marjo Mello, for everything you did to promote literacy in our community. Library Director, 1992 to 2020. And then I found a quote, because I can always find a quote.
Yes.
"The library is inhabited by spirits that come out of the pages at night. Isabel Allende."
I agree.
And I knew you would, and this is going to go in the library.
Thank you.
And this is from the Friends of the Library,
Thank you.
and it's a small plaque that you get to take home
Ooh,
and hang in your wherever you want to.
okay.
And there's a throw in here with cats' faces on it, and they have glasses.
All
There you
right,
go.
perfect.
And it is so soft that I almost kept it.
Hey, that's an honest.
That's a nice way to go.
But I don't have cats, so.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, I am absolutely thrilled. And Dixie Smith, one of the other trustees, also gave me a really cool briefcase bag with cats on it also. So I everybody knows my favorite theme of kitty cats and books. So
That's right.
so thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for so many years.
Oh, thank you. It's my honor. They let me work at the library, and then they gave me a paycheck too. So I'll always, you've heard that before from me, believe me. But thank you. I enjoyed my 33 years. I am so far during COVID doing something I probably would have done without COVID, which is hang out of my house. So I'm just really glad that I got the opportunity to do what I could do. And I really appreciate everybody here because everybody worked so hard throughout the whole city to make it run the way it runs. And it does a very good job. And people get to read, and I love the quote you put. So, yes, thank
It
you.
said Marjo when I found it.
Yes, it did. Thank you.
All right. Before you sit down, let's get a photo together with the council.
If we could just share some comments.
Yeah, we will.
Yeah.
Sure, we can do that. I don't want to make him stand up too long. Ooh, nice.
Now I gotta look for
Go on, Sam.
Oh,
We
you
also
want-
have some flowers for Martha.
Oh, we're going to do the comments after.
pretty.
Those are beautiful.
Oh my
Luke
God.
almost tapped me too.
Yeah.
told them they wouldn't last till Valentine's.
How's your son?
Doing very well.
You're right, if it was closer to the
Lots of fun.
14th, it probably would have been snapped.
Yes, it is. I'm gonna be a bookie. Get it?
Yes. And we're all smiling. We're all smiling.
Said, look out, buy our flowers. Good job.
That's all my thing. Look at when you pose.
You like that?
You're a poser.
I'm a poser. A poser.
No, it's okay, I should pick one to smell. It smells
Okay, now the gauntlet, now the council gets to,
Right?
I get roasted now?
yes.
Okay.
George, you want to start?
Roses or
Sure,
roasted?
yeah, right, I'll start, I'd be happy to. It's been a real honor and privilege to have you here with the city of Brawley, Marjo. You've done so much work. And, to be honest with you, I always just think of you as a person, not just the work that you've done, but, you've always brought some humor to the city council meetings. You've always brought professionalism and just a lighthearted mood, which I think it helps us all deal with this role a lot better. But, you've made a difference in so many people's lives. Every year that we've gone to the Angel Tea parties and the wrap-ups, there's just so many people, there's so many families that are impacted and that you've made a difference in their lives. So I want to thank you for that and for the work that you've done for the city and its residents. You've operated the library for many, many, many years. And, it's 2 branches, but I'll tell you, it really does show that you're valued here for having such a long career here in the city of Brawley. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart. I know this past year has been a challenging and difficult year. I know it has been, but I want you to know that I truly appreciate everything that you've done, and you've made it a better experience for me on council, and I thank you for that.
Thank you very much.
All right,
Thank
good
you.
deal.
And I also want to personally thank you for honoring me by nominating me for Woman of the Year for the Assembly District.
Well
So-
earned,
Yeah, and I appreciate that too. I mean, I've always felt supported by the council members individually and collectively, so thank you.
Good deal. Donnie?
Oh, boy. I think it's hard not to reflect on really my first year on council. And just so the public knows, I was thrown to the wolves by joining the library board, and I knew if I can survive that, working the gauntlet of the smartest group, we'll definitely say that it was a wonderful experience that I've always reflected on. But really to echo, a lot of the sentiments that George said, Marjo, it's a legacy nobody can take. It's not even the 33 years, it's the multiple generations that you have impacted. That to me is legacy that only any of us as public servants would ever hope to do, and even a fraction of that. So Marjo, you should be very, very proud, and I know that there are just numerous, countless probably people that we don't even know that you had that impact, and you're a rare, I think, leader in and of that you really believe in the work that you were doing, and you really, when it comes right down to things like literacy, you went above and beyond, and I think working very closely with the passionate board to do things that really make Brawley stand out, and I'm very, very proud of that. We'll never forget that. And beyond that, I think the pandemic kind of puts like a little bit of a bummer on our ability to celebrate, and I can assure you this council, that time's coming, I hope soon, and you're not going to be a stranger. We want to have you back, and we really want to, I think when I set foot in that library again, have some more opportunity, to do that with you, Marjo. So just really appreciate the service, and I thank the board again for taking also the time to honor and recognize the tireless work, Marjo, that you've done. So thank you very much for your service.
Thank you. And I also appreciate the individual talents that people have brought to help the library. When I asked you if you could facilitate a strategic planning meeting so that we could make sure we were doing the right thing and then move on to what the community wanted, having you there really helped make a difference. And it goes for every single person who's come and helped with things that they're good at, that we recognize, and then we kind of purloin them to come and help us out with things. So thank you.
Thank you, Marjo. Thank you.
Right. Sam is the library's #1 customer, so
Yes,
he's-
I'm the
he's got a
library's
lot to
#1
say.
customer. Not to take out books, just during the book sales. No, but I've known Marjo for many, many years, even before I came on the city council, when I was on the Literacy Volunteers of America Board. We were really involved in literacy for all of the residents here in Imperial County, and she served diligently helping us with that. And certainly, I've known her for many, many years. Her late husband I knew also. And I can't say enough about Marjo. Marjo's always been there for the library and always there for the people, and especially the children that come and utilize the library. And I've been able to attend some of the library board meetings. They say I talk too much, but that's the way it goes. But I have filled in for Luke a little bit on those meetings, and I've enjoyed that and meeting the ladies and I've known most of the ladies from the library board before. And then Ron Stillman, who was involved in the library a lot. I know he treasured Marjo and what she brought to the library. And so in all of that, the only thing I'm really, really worried about now is my tamale supply. Because Marjo was always the source of my tamales during the holidays. And so I've been a little concerned about that, especially with COVID. We haven't been doing very much, but I'll get in touch because you're a neighbor of my son.
Yes.
Over on Duarte, so yes. But I'd have to say that, and the final thing I would say is that when you think about a librarian and what they bring to a community and everything, I would have to say that when I think about librarians, I think about Marjo. I think she epitomizes what a librarian should be and what they are. And to me, when I think about the library, I always think about Marjo. And so I'll leave it with that. Thank you very much for your service to the city.
Thank you, and thank you for all your contributions back. And I know some of the most fun remarks we've had from families at story times was when you came to talk about the Civil War and costumes and things like that, and they're just really treasured memories.
And I love those times too.
Yeah, and hopefully
Thank
they'll
you.
continue to keep asking you, which
Yes,
I'm sure they
okay.
will.
And to continue the book sales once COVID's over.
Yes.
When you tell him, it's $1 per bag, Sam brings his own bag, and he's like, bigger,
I go
bigger
through
than
that, I won't share with anyone.
Yeah, right, yeah.
It's kinda like they're all mine.
55-gallon trash bag.
Yeah, exactly, construction
But thank
bag.
you very much, Marjo.
Well, Marjo, it's been a pleasure working alongside you as I get to attend the library board meetings, and I was trying to think of a word, if I could sum up Marjo in one word. That word is connection, and you connect people to information, you connect people to services at the library. You have over the years figured out ways to bring services to people that you wouldn't normally see in a library, for one thing, but that they would have a hard time connecting to otherwise. You connect to people, in a way that's affectionate. You're happy to hug people, shake hands, whatever, offer a smile and a kind word. And I think that's part of that legacy that Donnie was talking about that you leave behind is, the warm feeling that people have associated with the library. And I appreciate all the hard work and the effort that you put in to set us up, into the future. And I believe we're in good hands, and you have been a big part of that. And you certainly do leave a legacy, and we really do appreciate all you've done, Marjo.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Luke. I just, when you came on the library board, I wasn't sure exactly what to expect. And I was absolutely.
We still don't know what to expect, yeah, we still don't know.
You never know.
I was absolutely thrilled because you always share information, which is, close to what I do in my heart. And also came up with a lot of really creative help for us, and that's really cherished. So thank you back again as an individual and collectively as the board, as the city council, because it does make a difference.
All right.
And the other difference is the library board. Many of them have been on, Dixie Smith's been on the board forever.
Forever, yeah.
She came on about 3 or 4 years after I started as
Amazing.
working at the library, but as a director. She came on right after that, and these ladies have been here over 20 years. And I think our newest board member is up to what, 6 years? 7 years? Yeah. So the longevity and continuity and passion and interest is just really evident in everything that they do. And I think we have a mutual admiration society, so I also want to really thank them. The other group is the staff of the library. We've had people, we have a part-timer who's been there over 25 years, as well as full-timer, over 25 years. A lot of people are there, they're recognizable, and their heart hasn't changed. They started out wanting to help people, and they keep continuing to do that. It's what we want to do at the library, and it's our passion, and it will continue with whomever takes over. The bar is set of what the expectations are, and it should continue. So I also want to thank staff over the years. And I also want to thank the public because they're so responsive. They've expressed themselves that this is the kind of things that they want. Literacy to me it opens doors. I know that's a cliche, but it really does open doors. And the people who have improved their reading or learned as an adult, or the kids who come in and read not only they don't know they're practicing and getting better at it, they just enjoy the stories. And a good story is always fun to enjoy. So I just think that Brawley being my home actually makes Brawley the ideal place for me to live and to work and to do what I've been able to do. And again, just thank you to everybody. Thank you so much. And I do have a hanky in my pocket, and I did that on purpose because I knew I would get a little emotional. But just again, thank you because you've given me opportunities too.
Thank you.
Thank you,
So,
Marjo.
thank you.
I couldn't believe you made it all the way through that without breaking down. That was...
I'm going to head out.
Okay.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't
She's
have
leaving
to
us
stick
now.
around.
Yeah,
What?
which I normally don't get to.
Right?
Oh, take your flowers.
Oh, these are absolutely stunning.
There's the box so it won't tilt over, yeah.
Won't flip over in your car.
You know I have a nickname at the library called Messy Marjo.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
When there's a mess, people usually come help me, so
Okay.
thank you all for... No, I'm okay. I got you first. Oh, good, thank you. I would have forgotten.
Ladies, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies, for coming.
Thank
Thank
you,
you
ladies.
all.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you for coming in and doing that. We appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Okay, now that we all feel good, let's move on to item 3, the consent agenda. Items are approved by one motion. Council members or members of the public may request consent items be considered separately at a time determined by the mayor. Do I have an approval of the consent agenda?
So moved.
I'll second the motion.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? Consent agenda is approved. Item 4, regular business. I'm going to start with 4A, an update on City of Brawley declaration of local emergency as a result of COVID-19 pandemic. Overall outlook presented by Fire Chief Mike York.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council and city staff, Fire Chief Mike York. I'll begin this evening's report. Is it okay? Can you guys hear? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll begin this evening's report with the local case count as reported by the Imperial County Department of Public Health. Within the Imperial County, we have successfully tested 118,898 persons for COVID-19. We have a total negative test cases of 92,115. We've recorded positive cases of 26,184. As of today, we have an active case count of 849. We are trending downward, so we do have some good news in this front. Unfortunately, in Imperial County, we've recorded 551 deaths. Within the 92227 zip code, we have accounted for 3,992 of the positive cases and 76 of the deaths. Our daily positive case rate has seen some really good numbers. We've been trending downward. We had a peak back in December 10th, right before we re-entered the lockdown, of 454 positive cases in a single day. Our latest report came from January 31st, and we had 9 positives in a day. So on the graph, we see a very sharp decline. Within our hospitals, as of today, we have 73 currently hospitalized. 30 are in ICU with 1 ICU bed available. Our last city council report, we had 100% surge capacity in use. As of today, we're at 20.2% surge capacity, so some definite improvement there. As for ventilators in use, we're 39 ventilators in use, which accounts for 23% of those items available. Looking at our neighbors to the east in Yuma County, I think they're seeing a surge a few weeks right behind us. They've tested 127,000 persons. They've confirmed 35,181, and they've had a significant increase. They've recorded 697 deaths in their area. Our neighbors to the south in Mexicali, from their government website, they've had 15,854 positive cases, 13,000 of which have recovered. They've recorded 2,558 deaths, and as of today, they have 254 active. Looking at the California State website for Blueprint for a Safer Economy, Imperial County, like many, still remains in the widespread. As we know, the governor recently lifted the stay-at-home order. Within certain parameters, we're still within widespread rates, so we are seeing some changes to some of our industries. The Imperial County case rate shows 31.23 persons per 100,000. We have a positivity rate, that's the ratio between number of people tested and the number of people that test positive, is 24.51% positive rate. For the Blueprint for a Safer Economy, as a reminder, to get to the next tier, we need to be less than 7 persons per 100,000 and less than 8% positivity rate. The state health equity metric, which is the measure of the overall positivity rate to the positivity rate of the most underserved communities within an area, a census tract. The state's showing us at 12.3. That also has to be less than 8 for us to move to the next tier. Looking back here, unfortunately, I did not receive numbers for the Brawley local test site for the upcoming week, just the overall numbers. However, our alternative care site at IVC, which is basically a overflow on top of the overflow for the hospitals, the current census is down to 7. And they've actually reduced staffing so that they're staffed for right now for 15 patients only, just because that site hasn't had to be used. And that's a combination of the numbers that we're seeing declining, as well as the individual hospitals improving their on-site overflow. Across the state, we're seeing our ICU availability stabilizing, but it's still low. It's around about 11 to 12% availability throughout the state. It looks like Southern California is starting to trend a little better than Northern California right now. Here in the Brawley Fire Department, since the declaration of emergency, we responded to 279 calls that were COVID related and an additional 140 calls that were COVID positive. As you guys are well aware, we have vaccination efforts are well underway. The first rounds of vaccines in the Valley went to EMS and frontline healthcare workers. There's a series of tiers that are defined by the state. Once the vaccinations started rolling out, the state made a change, and they included the 65 and older population across every tier. So while we're delaying rollout to some of our frontline and emergency workers, we're also vaccinating our most vulnerable populations. And by state metrics, it's an 80-20 split, with 80% of the vaccines being dedicated for the 65 and older within every tier. We will be entering into the next phase within the next week or two, as reported by the Department of Public Health, and the next phase should include our law enforcement officers. We had a meeting this afternoon with our EMS stakeholders, and one of the big items that is being looked at is, as there's been multiple strains or mutations of COVID-19 being reported worldwide, There's being studies conducted on the efficacy of the vaccines for the various strains of COVID, and it looks, those numbers are looking very good, actually. It looks like the type of vaccines that are being made cover a broad spectrum at a high percentage rate. So we're optimistic on that route. As always, we're going to continue to work with our local, state, and federal partners, continue coordinated responses, securing PPE and supplies. If there's any questions, I will do my best to answer.
I had one question.
Yes, sir.
You talked about they're going to the next phase, and that includes law enforcement officers. Does it also include other individuals in that second phase, or?
It does. It's not exclusively for law enforcement officers. There's multiple different industries represented in every tier. I would have to get the chart out.
Does it change age groups at all? No?
The age groups, as I understand it, are going to remain 65 and older at this point, and then they're going to be looking towards moving it downward to 55 and older once more vaccines become available.
Okay.
And I believe we're getting closer to a third vaccine, which I believe is provided by Johnson & Johnson for approval.
Yes, I've heard that. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Chief, just therefore, with 1A, did most of our department members were included in that, or do we still have some more to go?
Within my department, we're about 60% vaccinated. It was made available to those on the initial. There's been offerings for the remainder of personnel. Unfortunately, it turned into a little bit of a contest to get the remainder, but where I'm at, it looks like the majority of my willing personnel have been vaccinated. I just have a few people left to get it.
I understand. Okay. Thank you, Chief.
You're welcome.
Could you clarify, you said you've had 279 calls that are COVID-related and 140 calls that are COVID positive. Is that in addition to the 279, or?
It's within.
Within that, okay.
Yes.
All right.
Sorry.
Some that were suspected of having COVID that didn't wind up having COVID?
They were suspected, or they were
had been in contact?
there was a COVID positive individual in the house, even though they weren't the person we were providing service to. So they were exposures, essentially.
Gotcha. Okay.
Chief, not necessarily a COVID-related question, but, well, it is. With respect to like last year's response, right, to households, whether it's COVID or just whatever call, stroke or heart attack, whatever it is, or fire, was there like a really serious increase in the level of responses as opposed to other years?
So we were just shy of 400 additional calls from the previous high year.
Wow.
And we calculated about 112 calls throughout the year that were COVID related. So maybe without the pandemic, we would be 112 short, but it just looks like in general, we're trending up. I don't have the exact number, but we closed out January about 270 calls.
Wow.
So if we continue on that route, we'll be closer to 3,000 calls at the end of this year. We're just seeing an increase for calls for service across the spectrum.
And maybe because people are home too. It could be that, right? I mean,
there's a lot of speculation. There is a lot of people that are at home. There's a lot of people that are out of work and having to utilize 911 as a primary care, which we don't recommend.
Right.
But unfortunately, people are pushed into those positions sometimes.
Yeah.
Our ratios don't seem to have changed at all. So we're seeing more calls for different types of fires, dumpster fires, vehicle fires. The only thing that has actually trended down significantly is our structure fire calls. So good.
Yeah, no
Not
doubt.
wood for that.
Do it here.
I appreciate that information. I think it's really important for us as council members to know that, and for the public to hear it, right? Because it's a strain on these public safety systems, and so it's important that they have a better understanding. I think that's very clear. But in the future, if you could present something, just kind of a wrap up, that'd be fantastic.
Absolutely, it has been a tough year. We've had a lot more calls than usual, and there's a lot more time spent because of COVID with decontamination and cleaning. But I've got an excellent staff; they've really stepped up, and I'm very lucky to have them.
And I wonder what that translates into, like cost and everything. I mean, and that's maybe harder to pinpoint, but there's got to be some correlation there, obviously. But anyway, interesting, and thank you for the information.
Very welcome.
Thank you, Chief.
Yeah, I'm sure we know somebody in finance that could probably tell us the difference in
Somebody
cost between 2020 and 2019. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
Okay, moving on to item 4B, discussion and action to declare emergency, ratification action taken by the city manager, and approval of the replacement of alpha centrifuge auger for biosolids generation at the wastewater treatment plant.
Guillermo's in San
San
Francisco right
Francisco.
now,
By
so
Guillermo
he's,
Cias. Okay, he's on the Golden Gate Bridge.
yeah.
Yeah.
Back up is pages 36 to 44. Mr. Cias.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Guillermo Cias, Public Works Director. This item, as described on the material, is final part of the wastewater treatment plant that transports the biosolids from the centrifuge, which is is a very important piece also that conveys the solids once the water is treated and transported to the greenhouse for further drying and be able to dispose it. Recently, we replaced some components of the centrifuge, but while the staff were doing a routine inspection and maintenance, they discovered that this that conveyor of biosolids that has been operating for many years, for decades now, is severely corroded. And unfortunately, there's no backup, so it's just one piece for the wastewater treatment plant, and we have to move quick on that replacement because we don't have any other than backup, and we need to comply with our permit to be able to not to be in violation. So that's the reason that there's not much time to go out to bid and competitive process. That's the reason for this emergency declaration. Plus, we are thinking to use a local business to be able to do it quicker. Any questions that you might have?
Mr. Mayor, unless there's
None.
further question or comments, I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve.
Okay, got a motion?
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? All right.
And further
Passes.
comment would just be, I appreciate Mr. Dowden for being able to jump in and help save the day, so thank you, Guillermo.
All right, item 4C, discussion and potential action to approve first reading of ordinance number 2021 ordinance of the City Council of the City of Brawley, California, adopting rules and regulations for sidewalk vendors that choose to do business in city parks. This will be presented by City Attorney Bill Smurden. Backup is on pages 45 to 53.
Hey, good evening, council members. So we took direction from the council, and we had a discussion about this in a couple of different meetings. And the city manager, myself, we came up with rules and regulations that we think are reasonable, but council has the final say on it. These would limit the amount of vendors in most parks to 1 per acre. In Plaza Park, it would be 1 on the north and 1 on the south part of the plaza. And of particular importance, I think, is that no one's allowed to do vending over by the Veterans Memorial. No one's allowed to do vending at Cattle Call Park. The ordinance would provide that no vendors are allowed at the big Little League field. And that's the Little League fields because the Little League has its own operation, and we'd be interfering with that. Cattle Call is because Cattle Call Rodeo Committee leases that park, and they operate it. Another important thing that's in there is during the big cattle call events where the plaza shut down, a vendor would have to get permission from that organizer to vend just like anybody else would. Then there's just a handful of small neighborhood parks that are very small. Some very close to my house. I didn't even know were there until I went looking. That are just so small it wouldn't make sense. And I don't think any vendor would want to go there anyway. But I think the rules that we came up with are pretty reasonable. It won't curtail anything, but it's common sense. Like you can't set up in the middle of a ball field. You can't block walking paths, things like that. You have to leave when the park is closed. Anyway, if there's any questions, any suggestions, edits?
Mr. Mayor, I just had one suggestion, and I didn't see it in here, and maybe we want to talk about it. We may not want to do anything about it, but I noticed we didn't talk about signage for those temporary vendors in these regulations, and I thought maybe there should be at least something that addresses where they can't set up a permanent sign that stays there, where they can't drive stuff into the ground because of the nature of the fields and stuff. They may do some damage. As far as it's being affixed to their cart or whatever type of vending thing they've got, or boards or whatever they have as they're there, I don't have any problem with that. I think I'm talking about more of permanent signage or something that gets a lot of signs out there from their vending area, and that they've got a lot of signs out there, and I just don't think we should allow that.
Okay. Well, I think that's an easy addition. That makes a lot of sense. Is there anything else?
I don't know if it's entirely clear, but, the vendors, I know it's hard to describe one, right? Because there's going to be people that do different things. But generally, when you think of a sidewalk vendor, you generally think they're self-sufficient. They're not necessarily bringing power supplies in. They're not doing, other things. So I don't know if that's clearly defined here, but it's just one of the things that if we don't address it, you know what I mean? It just becomes another where there are tables, where there are other items there, A sidewalk vendor is a sidewalk vendor. It shouldn't be a restaurant in a park. You know what I mean? There's a difference, So I think that.
So there is, one of the things that we put is a limit on, if a vendor's vending food, there'd be a limit on 2 portable tables. But again, that's just what we put in there. Any vendor that's selling hot food has to have some heating source and some lighting source, but like, for example, one of the things we put in there is that vendors have to remove all trash, and that doesn't mean remove it to a park trash can, because that's not removing it. That's just leaving it for city staff. The vendor that's operating out here, he does that already. It's kind of a good model, and I noticed that there's a sidewalk vendor operating at the Goyelle service station now. Now that's private, so she makes whatever deal she makes with them, but it's something that's starting to come up. I don't know if there's going to be a huge amount of folks doing it, but it's coming up.
It's coming up. I mean, I know it will be.
I know in San Diego it's
easier to do it on private property than it is on public property for sure.
I think it's the amount of vendors is rising. I think we will see some additional ones. If you go to different cities like San Diego, Yuma, Phoenix, there's a whole bunch of sidewalk vendors in those areas. And most of them are on private property, not on public property. So that's a difference in some cases. But I do think this is a good set of regulations.
Yeah, it's a good one.
We may have to work on some additional ones as the need arises. But at this point in time, I think these probably cover everything.
Yeah.
Except for maybe the signage that I brought up,
Yeah.
and maybe in your case, the tables or not lack of those.
But it's fairly well, not fairly, it is very thorough.
Yes.
Well, so the question for council is, Mr. Couchman has an idea that we ought to add, and it makes perfect sense. There's not a huge influx of sidewalk vendors right now. There's no need to pass the first reading tonight. I can take whatever suggestions, Mr. Couchman's, whatever other suggestions you might have over until the next week, and we can put it back on for first reading next time, and that give you more time to study it.
Perfect.
And because it's not an emergency by any means. Like I say, the gentleman that's operating the park, he's operating nice and clean. Everything's working out fine. What we want to do though is avoid a situation where somebody else decides they want to operate there and we don't have a system. But this would provide a system to make sure it's fair and
I got you.
we get a rotation going.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a good
fine
idea.
with me.
So
I think it's good.
So what, I think maybe the thing to do is if you come up with other ideas, just why don't you funnel them through the city manager,
Okay.
and he'll make sure I get them, and then we'll put it together, and we'll be ready for next week.
That'll be fine.
I like you, Bill. I like you a lot.
Well, I'll try to do my best for you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, so we will revisit that later. We will move on to item 5. This is an informational item. Attendance summary and minutes for the City of Brawley boards, commissions, committees from April 1st, 2020 to December 31st, 2020. And those are on pages 54 through 74. And item 6, departmental reports. 6A is an update on emergency construction project at the Brawley Water Treatment Plant to replace components of 2 sedimentation basins. It's presented once again by Public Works Director Guillermo Cias. Is he still in San Francisco, or?
He's traveling
Missed
back.
the fog was moving in, he may not be
He
able to.
Might be a different.
Lost his signal.
The fog was moving.
There he is.
From San Francisco.
The fog was moving in, I don't know, maybe.
Uh-oh, we can't hear you,
Now
Guillermo.
we can't hear you, Guillermo.
Yeah. I think.
Okay.
There you go.
Can hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
That's an old Verizon
Yeah,
commercial.
Verizon.
And that guy's a traitor, man. He left the Sprint, huh? What is up with that guy?
Okay.
Anyway.
Paul. His
Yeah,
name's
yeah.
Paul.
Regarding this contract, today we received confirmation from that contractor that he has all the parts necessary to fix the trough and the sedimentation basins. And he wants to schedule the 13th, February 13th, to come here and to do those and the rest of the punch list. So we are hoping that by February 13th, do the final inspection and everything is complete.
Great.
All right.
It'll be good to get that off the agenda.
Yes.
I don't know how long that's been on the agenda, but it's been
All year,
like a whole year, maybe closer to 2 years, I don't know. Thank you, Guillermo.
but we're working on it.
Item 6B, an update on police department activities. This will be presented by Police Chief Jimmy Duran. Yes, and our city manager can tee it up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. I didn't say fellow council members this time. And a conversation that I had with council member Nava a couple of weeks ago, or probably right after the last meeting, the topic came up of what's going on in our various departments. What are we all doing? And he thought, and I agree, and it might have been done in the past, that every month or so we want to bring you a little update from all the departments, one at a time, and let you know what's going on in the city, let the public know, and Chief Duran graciously volunteered to be first. So,
All right.
Chief?
Volunteered or voluntold?
Volunteered.
Voluntold. Did I say that all right? Okay. Well, good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council, and staff, and the public. Well, I do appreciate the opportunity to provide an update, because I think it's important for our community to know what we're doing at the police department. I know that sometimes we can't come up and really say everything we're doing, but it is important that every so often we are afforded this opportunity, so thank you again. So I'm going to briefly go through some of the things that we are working on. We are working on several projects, several things, but I don't think I can touch on all of them because a lot of them are still at the very early stages. So right now we're developing a K-9 program. As most of you know, a K-9 program is very important for any police force. So we are working on getting third-party funding, which I know Tyler's going to be happy about that because it doesn't come out of the city coffers, and we are working on that. We're pretty close on getting that. That's going to provide the K-9 equipment and training, so it's really going to help us out. We are pretty close. At this point, I believe within the next 45 days we can complete this.
Awesome.
So that is my opinion at this point. We're also looking for additional funding for technology. One of the things that I would like to implement here at the police department is a unmanned aircraft unit. Why? Because I know what it can do, not just for police but also for fire. So there's so many applications that you can do when you're getting eyes from the sky. So we're working on grants, traditional and non-traditional partners as well we're looking for. When I say non-traditional, that means your nonprofits. Because a lot of times as police officers, we don't look for the nonprofits, but that's another source of funding that we can use. This week, I went again on patrol, or last week. I like to do this every so often because that gives me boots on the ground. eye view rather than just, looking at it from the police department. So I like to go out there every so often and see what is happening. It really shows me our trouble areas in the city. So at this point, we're working on a plan to address our homeless camps. I know those pop up in our city here and there, and we're trying to tend as best we can to them. We know they can be a fire hazard, and they also cause other problems. So we're assessing this problem, and we're looking to or for a plan to mitigate this issue. And I don't say a solution because really nobody has a solution. I think if I had a solution, I probably wouldn't be here. Somebody would have hired me, we'd make, all kinds of money, right? But it is a nationwide problem, so we're going to try to mitigate it. We're going to do our best. We're already trying, but we're going to come up with something better. I don't know if you know, we do have a graffiti problem in our city. Well, thank God we do have a great graffiti abatement program. Although it's working part-time, it's not in full effect, it is really doing a really good job. I mean, just in the month of January alone, we responded to 36 locations. And you got to keep in mind, some of these locations have several tags. It's just not one one tag. You look at the actual records, it will reflect that. And I'm going to give you an example because these areas that are cleaned up, they vary in size. About 2 weeks ago, the National Guard Armory got tagged. I don't know if you guys heard about that or probably saw it. Many people didn't see it because we acted so quickly that within the next 2 days it was gone. And that was a big tag. I mean, if you were to see the photo, you can completely see that it got tagged across. So that's kind of the work that our graffiti abatement unit is doing. They work hard to make it happen, and usually the very next day. Sometimes I'll drive around, I'll see some tagging the next day without even saying anything. They took care of it.
And it's matched well, oftentimes.
Yes, on top. I was very impressed on that because I did take I have had the opportunity to drive around. I see some of these patches. You can tell there's fresh paint, but they do a really good job matching, so that's very important. We are increasing our partnership with the federal or our local federal agencies. And why are we doing this? We're doing this to address our local crime trends. There are certain things that are happening here in our city. I think in the past people have talked about it, especially some of these felonies that are occurring. So we're trying to partner up with the federal government in order to address some of these issues. So we're coming up with some plans on that. As far as local youth activity with the police department is what's one of the things that's important for us. Our PAL is non-existent. Our Explorer program at this point is not where it should be. So we are concentrating some work on that. We did have discussions with the high school last week. We're actually looking at putting a school resource officer. We know we're not in class yet, but we're anticipating, so we're trying to make sure that we time it just right, so when that occurs, we're ready. Not only that, but we're hoping that this officer is also going to help us with some of these local programs that we need to do to get some of these kids involved. I met with a local youth club representative last week, and we had a good discussion. We were looking at the future outlook and what can the police department do to get involved in our community. So we're going to try to keep this trend where we meet with some of these local leaders and try to get their input because they have grassroots here in the community and they can really lead us to where we need to be. So we're also working with a school on reviewing school safety policies. So we're doing that this week. That's elementary school and junior high. So at this point, that ends my update. If you have any questions that I can answer.
I love it. I love the fact that, I always say there's strength in numbers, right? I mean, and when you're getting resources and working with others, it strengthens you, right? So no, I appreciate the report out. I think it's important, again, for council to hear the things that are taking place within our departments, especially in a time right now where we're not as easily able to go visit in the office. I know some of us do, but it's not, it's not easy to go in and visit a department and talk to the department head or to the city manager, and so we appreciate, at least I do, I know I appreciate sincerely the information. I think it's really good information, and I'm glad that you've really stepped in and started working hard, so I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Knopf.
Mr. Mayor, if I could. Yeah, I appreciate the update. Really, really good update, Chief. And also, I had invited the chief to speak to Rotary, and he was able to do so through the Zoom meeting this last 2 weeks ago, I think. And it was a great presentation, and they appreciate that, and it also gets the word out to the community. When he goes to a service club, talks about the police activities, introduces himself because he is the new chief, and that's always helpful, and I appreciate the fact that he was available to do that. And that just, the more we do of that, I think the more knowledge there is in the community of the importance of the police department, but also the struggles that they go through also in order to
that's
get
important,
services out there. And when people realize that, I think they're much more appreciative, and they also work to help the police department in
Right.
in those ways.
Right.
Okay? So, thank you very much.
Just like the fire calls, right? I mean, it's important that
It's
people know.
important
Yeah,
that they know.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. If I can chime in, Mr. Mayor, just to throw out, I appreciate, because I think it's been a long time, and I think if you look back at last year and just all that's occurred across the country, the topic of even community policing is, it almost became, started having negative connotations, and so important. We know that our community thinks, always is, backed and thought highly of our department, but to get this kind of update to benefit the public, I appreciate, Tyler and Councilmember Nava and the rest of council, Mr. Mayor, for teeing that up. I think that's fantastic. So, Chief, appreciate the update.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, as Donnie alluded to, it seems like so much of the information that we get is negative, whether, whatever it's about, politics or law enforcement or whatever. So it is good to hear a positive update and to hear what's going on inside the police department and what you guys are working on, because it helps, I think, our citizens to know that there's vigilance there and that you're looking for new ways to enforce the law and to keep the citizens safe here in Brawley. So we really appreciate the time that you put into that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I like it. Thanks.
Thank you,
Good job.
Chief.
Thank you. Keep it up.
Okay, moving on to, thanks, Tyler. Moving on to item 7, city council member reports. We will start with Councilman Wharton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have 17 items here. No,
Right.
I do not.
17 items.
Scroll.
I think I am happy and very appreciative that we are able to convene here in council chambers. So thank you for everyone to help kind of accommodate that and get us on that path. And hopefully that certainly continues. We did have a virtual California League of Cities meeting, and maybe the hope is that was one of the last virtuals, but we'll see. I think the next one's still planned to be, but still good to see some faces from around the valley, and I think there were some good presentations there. Being what it was still pretty limited in terms of the time, but Mr. Mayor, congrats on your first brag session and presentation on all that, so great job. In addition, I will mention, I think on the heels of the chief, I did take the time and schedule a little time with the chief one-to-one just to go in and say hi, and I actually didn't, in the limited time that we have, still heard much more even tonight, so had a similar, kind of a briefing. So, Chief, again, thank you for the accommodation, but it's always good to pop in whenever we can, whether it's a department or certainly PD. So, Chief York maybe fires next. I need to go say hi over there, wearing this mask, The other thing I'll just report out, I was able to take my 90-year-old mother to the vaccine clinic that took place today at PMH, and I know some of that comes with a little bit of, maybe, public opinions and whatnot in terms of vaccination. My point in just pointing it out, I think it needs to be repeated. It was done very well at the clinic. All of I think the emergency department staff that was assigned to that really ran smoothly, in being that it was targeting some of our most, more vulnerable population and our elderly. I thought they did it very, very well in getting those patients or those folks in, out, and getting them taken care of. So again, big kudos to that team over there that delivered at Pioneers today. Just witnessed that. And funny that there was some mention of drones and UAS. I'll just throw in on a personal note, I invested in one myself here pretty recently. And was kind of training myself up a little bit more on the utilization of that technology. I'm involved in it a little bit by trade, with my company, but to be able to kind of have something personal that you can kind of go out and operate, and what is just amazing today, if people understood how affordably they package that technology now, including the camera system, the resolution, its ability to fly. So I can see, hopefully, Chief, I know in the future you were successful in getting a program like that going at the county level, but I can see how there could be multiple benefits to the city and the citizens with public safety applications. So look forward to seeing more of that, hopefully, in the future. And then last thing, I'll just end with, Mr. Mayor, on the homeless issue. I did have some citizens that reached out actually a few months ago. And one of the things I did say is that was right when we were in the middle of getting the police chief designation and hiring and all that done. Now that that is done, be looking forward to potentially connecting some community members, potentially maybe a focus group when that's appropriate, working through the city manager and maybe coordinating with the chief to help that to happen. So that is all I have to report.
All right. Thank you. Councilman Nava.
I'll keep it very brief, but Councilmember Castro couldn't be here today, but from what you all said, I think he had an event within his home. I hope everybody is well and he's okay as well. So just shout out to Councilmember Castro and his family. But also attended the League of Cities virtual meeting, and so that was it was brief, but I think Brawley was represented well. And do appreciate the mayor, sharing some of the wins we've had. I really can't wait until we're able to more freely be able to meet in public and get together and kind of get back to a normal state. It is taxing on us as council members and as city staff and as public servants. It is taxing on us. It's very challenging because, some of the work that you typically do, you're prevented from doing. And it does stifle your creativity. It stifles your productivity. It stifles a lot of things. So I'm anxious to get back. I mean, we all have a different approach to council, and even like Council Member Cashman, as an example, he interacts, with Rotary in person and those sorts of things, and he's not able to do that. And and I do things in a different way, and everybody else does. But I just can't wait to be able to do that soon, just to make this a really strong 2021. I think it will be a really good year once things stabilize a little bit, and it looks like we're headed in that direction. Anyway, that's just a personal statement there. But also attended the ICTC meeting on behalf of the Brawley City Council, and that was my final meeting as the chair. So now I'm the immediate past chair. But it was an interesting year. It was essentially all COVID. But I did get to experience some cool things. And, I was able to present along with Mayor Garcetti of the city of Los Angeles on a, we presented together along with a very small group of others. And so that was a highlight in that experience with ICTC, but there's a lot of work ahead for ICTC. The busing system's really a great system. I hope that I've ridden it personally here in the city of Brawley, and I encourage all of council and staff to just jump on board. It takes about an hour to visit every stop. I think it's worth it. You'll see the entire community, or just about the entire community, from that ride. So I encourage you all to do it, and right now you ride for free. You just jump on board. They don't charge. It's subsidized, and so you just you go in and just view the city. You'll see it from a different perspective. I can guarantee that. I know I did. So anyway, that's just a plug for ICTC and for the local transportation services. One comment that Councilmember Wharton had made with respect to Pioneers and the service that they're providing with vaccinations. We all received, for the public's benefit, we all received a letter of, it was a complaint and frustration by a member of the public, and I was able to reach out to them and address some of the concerns that they had. So they were frustrated with the process at the hospital, but I think, the hospital also learned, these are unprecedented times. We're not, so we're kind of learning as we go a little bit, but I think they learned quite a bit from that experience, and I think it sounds like it's much improved. So I don't want to keep you all too long, but I do appreciate the time to see you all and speak to you in public and in person. I mean, it's been a long time. So anyway, those are my comments.
Thank you. Did you have something, Donnie?
Like I say, George looks younger.
Yeah.
I think something changed, since the last time I saw him.
Right? Yeah, maybe.
Face is
My
covered.
hair
Using
is,
some hair colorant or something. I guess.
right? Is that what it is? Yeah.
No, his face is covered.
That's what it is. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's got to be it.
All right, Mayor Pro Tem Couchman.
Okay, just a couple of things. It is unprecedented times, I think, and everybody needs to kind of be aware of that. There are some options for vaccines through, if you follow the Pioneers Memorial Healthcare District website and also El Centro Regional website. Vaughn's, I think, has developed some, has had some vaccines. Dr. Vo's clinic here in Brawley has also talked about that, and you can register, I think, online. You'll probably go on a waiting list, but it is available. So, and as more vaccines come out and as they get more supply, I encourage everybody to go on those sites and register and put your name down so that you're on a waiting list for it, because I think that opportunity will come along and you will be able to access a vaccine probably by the March timeframe, for sure, I think. So just keep that in mind, and I encourage people to do that. It is unprecedented times. I've driven around the city of Brawley. There's still a lot of work going on. I checked out the Wildcat work over in the housing unit over there behind Witter School, and they're building houses, and we're also working on that road, or the canal and the road and everything, and the canal over by Dogwood. They're working on that also. I've noticed there's been some work going on both those sites. We've got the donut shop open, the drive-through donut shop open on the K Street 86 Avenue there. We've got some things going on in Brawley. Businesses, they're struggling, but they seem to be moving forward. It is a sad time, and there's a lot of families that have lost family members, and so we want to recognize all of that. I will say that one of my longtime mentors passed away recently, Vernon Shelton. Now, Vernon Shelton ran the Brawley Road Yard 50 years ago when I went to work for them as a summer college student, and he passed away recently. He at 87. He was one of my early mentors, gave me my first real job that I had to go and interview for, and also a lot of the things that I talked to him about. And the good part about the Valley is I was able to network with that gentleman from that 50 years up into the time I went to work for the county on a regular basis, and then served in the same office with him. We shared Public Works, and Workforce shared the office with Public Works when he became the overall road superintendent, not just for Brawley, but the entire county. And then also I got to speak at his retirement dinner when he retired in 1991. So these are the kind of things that happen in a small community like ours, and I'm grateful for that opportunity, and just wanted to acknowledge him, because he worked for the county for 36 years and did a lot of things on the roads here in the valley, out at the slabs. He was responsible for all the north end at that time. So just recognizing him. With that, I'll say that I'm very pleased with the city of Brawley, the staff. Everybody's still responding. Everything is getting done, and I'm very grateful for all of that. And so with that, I'll end it. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Sam. Sam talks about unprecedented times. I saw a meme that said something about it would be really nice to just go back to precedented times.
Yeah, it would.
We're tired of these unprecedented ones. Okay, quickly, I have attended over the last few weeks the Imperial County Public Health Department's Zoom meetings for COVID updates, and those have been pretty enlightening. And one of the topics that came up in this last meeting was the vaccine clinics that took place in El Centro and Brawley, and a lot of dissatisfaction in people that attended those or drove by and saw people sitting outside in El Centro all night long, or parked in cars here in Brawley. But I just my response was that I know a lot of people are this way. They're patient and they're understanding. They know that a lot of what happens is, as Sam said, it's unprecedented. So people are learning for the first time how to react to something like this. But as Chief Duran pointed out about the homeless issue, that it's a nationwide puzzle, a problem that everyone's having to address, and it's the same with COVID. Everybody's going through the same speed bumps and hurdles and everything like that, and so I appreciate the people that reach out to us with frustrations and let us know, maybe what could be done better. But I also do really appreciate people for having patience and understanding for, the early growing pains of a vaccination schedule like this. And of course, so much of what happens trickles down from the state. We get very, very low allotments of the vaccine anyway to begin with, so it's going to hit its stride, but to start with, it's difficult to make it happen. So I do appreciate people's patience on that. I attended a chamber board meeting through Zoom, and they gave me a little bit of an update on activities that they're involved in. They are the coordinator for the Imperial Valley Business Recovery Task Force, and they've hosted 4 webinars for COVID labor law, which is pretty fresh, and it's adding a lot of additional regulations to businesses. It makes it more difficult to do business for the small businesses. But anyway, they are educating people on that. They've had over 150 attendees and reached over just over 100 businesses. And their program is being used by personnel with the California Department of Public Health and the CDC across the country, because it brings together health and the business community in an educational manner that isn't typically seen. So kudos to our local chamber for putting together a program that's working across the country. They will be hosting more webinars during February and March, and tentative until June for that, for the COVID education. They have launched their Chamber Champion program and have added a few additional folks to their team, and they will be updating us with more details as they expand. And lastly, they continue to have labor law products available for sale to the business community, the labor law posters, etc. So spread that word around to people who need those for their businesses. I also, along with George and Donnie, attended through Zoom the League of California Cities meeting, and yes, got to read off my first brag time, as they call it, in those meetings. And it struck me that we didn't get to have a state of the city address last year, and so there have been a lot of things that have happened that haven't really been broadcast in that way. But just in this, just in the last few months, so much has happened. So many projects have been started or continued or finished here in the city of Brawley that it's very impressive when you see it on paper. And often, if you have your path to drive to work each day or whatever your activities are, you see what's going on in that part of town, but you don't see everything that's happening everywhere. So it is nice to get a spreadsheet or a list of projects that have been ongoing, that are being completed, or that have been started. And it speaks to not only private entrepreneurship, people that are putting their own money on the line to start projects, but it speaks to the efficiency and the hard work of our city staff. And I do want to appreciate or publicly appreciate the work that our city manager is doing and all of our city staff in the projects that have been pushed through that pipeline rather quickly. I mean, some in comparison to how it was done before, but just there's always industry happening here in Brawley, so I appreciate
Mayor Hamby, if I could add a comment to that.
Sure.
You're right. I mean, I think it's so important. Again, it goes back to communicating to the public. It's so important that we message all the things that are happening within the city. There's so many positive things, and unfortunately, what gets publicized are oftentimes negative, right? But it's not all of the wins that we've had, and we've had many. But think about it, it's been almost 2 years since the last mayor's address. Yeah. Almost 2 years since the last mayor's address.
And I think we need to do a cumulative when we do.
Right? And we need to reflect back on maybe some of the bigger wins from the time, maybe, it may be more distant past, but we need to talk about the things. So I would encourage you that we work on something sooner than later,
for sure,
to address, just that.
Yeah.
Even if it's in a virtual format, we can work around it, but we just need to get there, sooner than later.
Well, and with the hub, we have an opportunity to broadcast that kind of information, a mayor's address, a state of the city address, in a way that we haven't in the
Right.
past. And so it's good to have that resource, and we certainly will take advantage of that in the near future, put together a presentation with, photos or video montage.
Yeah.
Along with,
I'd be happy to help
Yeah.
in any way I can, so.
Drone footage.
yeah.
Yeah,
we can get Johnny out there with
absolutely.
it.
We can get that. No, certainly. Think about the resources in front of you.
That's right.
I mean, we do. We have resources. I've worked on the other presentations of my own, and for Councilmember Wharton as well. I know you and I you took some pictures, and we were starting to work something for Mayor Howdigi last year. That didn't work out, but if we can work on something and maybe commit to a time frame, that'd be great.
Okay.
I know I know we're busy and we have busy schedules, but I think it's so important. And
Yeah.
if we could put something like highly professional together amongst us, it goes to show
Yeah.
that, honestly, we have good resources within the city too. We don't need to outsource that, so,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yes, we will do
Sorry to
that.
interrupt you, but
That's
it just-
okay. No,
it was
it's-
good.
Those are all good points, and it's on my mind to do that, and I appreciate the offer for help, and I think if we work together, we can put together a presentation that will be informative for the community, that we can post on the hub and share on our own individual pages, and I think that'll be great. But yeah, Tyler handed me a few sheets of accomplishments and projects in the pipeline, and I had to, really whittle it down to just one page, because I was gonna be there 15 minutes talking about what's being done. So, and people start to fall asleep when you do that. So
Yeah.
I cut it down to, less than a page and did it in less than 5 minutes. So that was good. But anyway, so I think good things are on the horizon. I think if people let their guard down, we may see numbers climb back up with COVID, but right now things are looking good, and I think by and large people are being as careful as they can be. So we look for not only projects to continue in the city, but better days ahead as far as COVID goes. All right, item 8, a city manager report.
Thank you, Mayor. Just briefly here, I believe Chief Duran did not mention that him and I also met with the both superintendents of the Brawley Elementary and the Brawley High School, collaborating on what we can do moving forward, addressing SRO and other things. And I thank Chief for stepping in on that too as well. Along those lines, the last couple weeks I've met with BUHS on, as you may be aware, some sports are allowed now, high school sports. We will be opening the pool for BUHS swimming. We were able to address, with the help of Bill and an addendum, the COVID issues, the state of the pool as it is. And I'm glad to announce that we were able to move forward on that and get these kids out doing something.
Nice.
Street sweeping, we hope to bring, with the help of Republic, just a refresher on when the street sweeping is making its way around certain parts of the city. So help the citizens and residents maybe move their cars off during those times so we can be more effective with our street sweeping.
I appreciate that. I brought that forward the other day just because there was a citizen complaint. So I thank you for that. I know we've addressed it before, but thank you so much for that. I appreciate it.
And then personnel-wise, I'm excited. We have some openings. We'll have an announcement soon on one that we'll be making. The finance director is open. We're having multiple interests with some very good candidates. And continuing with library interviews, park, et cetera. We're moving along. It's exciting. It's very exciting. Next meeting might be a little bit longer than this one. The finance director hopes to have the 6-month finance review for everybody. It'll be interesting to see where we are in relation to COVID and everything else, budget-wise. So that'll be on the agenda. And I believe that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tyler.
Thank you.
Item 9, city attorney report.
Just two things. Now that the sidewalk vendor ordinance is just about wrapped up, we'll start working on try to come up with some solution to the fireworks issue.
Okay.
So I haven't forgotten about that. The other thing, city finance department, and then after that, myself, received a call from a gentleman that he informed us that he owns the city of Brawley and wants our help to transfer title.
Okay.
So
Hey, man, we're ready.
we'll see what happens, but these sort of people exist, so sometimes you're
I thought that was Sam, no?
Let's
I
do
thought
this,
you owned-
let's do this
owned
quickly.
Brawley.
I own the city of Brawley.
Yeah,
I
I
don't know
thought you
why
did.
that people would
that's what I
think that
told
I
him.
didn't own
Yeah.
the city of Brawley. I don't know.
He didn't
You
like
tell him
that.
I was previous owner.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I thought when I became mayor, I would get a key to the city, but that didn't happen, so.
Just the code.
Just
Hey, I don't even have a key to this office.
Yeah, seriously.
But that's all I have.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
Item 10, city clerk report.
Just to let you know, Legion Road Phase 3 is out to bid, opens February 16th.
Sounds great.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay.
No, that
Good
was one of
deal.
my questions.
Good
That's
deal.
great.
That's good.
That'll make a lot of
That'll
people
supply a
happy.
lot of people.
So,
That'll be great
Yeah.
for the people over there.
That'll make a lot of council
That'll-
members.
phase
calm
one
them
needs
down.
repaving already.
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
Phase one.
Don't
So
say
we
that.
could start that again. Thank you, Edma.
It's from Kelly to the west.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, that's right, correct. It'll be good.
You know, I had a neighbor who asked me, he's like, and the plan was to do it, it was like 14 months, and then it became 18 months and 24 months and 36 months, and it's like, at what point, you know what I mean? It's just with COVID and government and everything else,
Yeah.
and, you know, the funding came from different sources, so
Right.
it wasn't like as simple as, and it's, sometimes people don't want to hear that, but.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, but this particular project, how long has it been since they started at 86?
It's been a
Legion.
minute. That has been a minute.
Has it?
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole process,
Yeah.
but the actual, when it broke
When they broke
ground,
ground.
that
Yeah.
started early last year,
Yeah,
last
so
year,
it's-
but
it's
yeah,
been
it's
about-
everything.
But
that
it's
led
been
up to it.
about, I'd say 5 years.
5 years
Yeah.
We
since
talked
the
about it a
dis-
long
yeah.
time, and it's
Yeah.
been deteriorating a long time,
Yeah.
so, but it's better now. but-
Yeah. No, it will. Once that's done, it's going to be really nice.
Yes.
Yeah.
That stretch is going to be really nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then we'll work on G. I
Then the
guess.
other,
Then G's
you know,
coming.
then there's so many other, let's not,
Huh?
That second phase.
Fifth
was
Street,
so
everything.
fast, too.
Yeah, that one was, uh-huh.
Yes, that was.
And then it was great that, you know, ICTC, we pushed to get the
Sidewalk.
the sidewalk,
Yeah.
the bus stop moved and all that sort of
Cool,
stuff,
yeah,
the
that's
concrete
been
done,
good, I
anyway,
think.
yeah. But
That's
I'm glad it's
proven to
being
be a
done.
good move, yeah.
Once they get that last phase done, then Sam can go rollerblading down
He
Legion.
will.
And,
Well,
He
good,
still
the
has the old
hospital's
school
right there
skates.
too,
The
and I'll
hospital's
need
there.
them because, you know.
He has
if
the
I
old
go
school
roller-
skates, he likes
If
to
I
do
go
it backwards.
rollerblading, I'll
strap
need
on
the
the-
hospital.
with the metal
Yeah,
wheels.
with
Yeah, the metal.
the headphones
yeah.
on?
I
Yeah,
used
with
to-
a key.
I used to use it. It's
Oh, my
don't-
goodness.
don't be, You guys, you know, them the dinosaurs.
I know.
All right. If there's nothing else, then I will adjourn our open session and we'll go into closed session.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you,
Thank you,
thank you,
everyone.
everybody.